Hello, I'm Jason Berridge, President and CEO of Complex Community Federal Credit Union. We're excited to partner with Avid's To and Through Success Center. The Success Center's goal is to advise and support ECISD graduates as they navigate life after high school. In this video series, we'll be covering topics like banks versus credit unions, types of accounts, how to open them, wants versus needs, budgets, saving, planning, investing, financial aid, goal setting, credit, and credit cards. The series is made possible by a partnership with ECISD and the Avid program. Special thanks to Dr. Miri, Amy Anderson, Virginia Hunt, and Liz Gray. Why do we invest in financial capability? Because 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck. 3 out of 4, 3/4 of people live paycheck to paycheck. That means that the money is tight for daily needs like food, shelter, utilities, and little room to save or invest. Living paycheck to paycheck is limiting, and it causes added stress. Our team is committed to educating the next generation of adults to be financially capable and to help people to find financial freedom. The greatest thing you can do for yourself is invest in your education and seek further understanding of what financial capability means for you. At the end of each presentation, we'll have a question and answer session where we answer questions that we receive. But if we do not answer your question, we'll include our contact information. And please feel free to reach out to us or anyone on our team with any questions that you have. We look forward to this exciting video series. Hey guys, Jason Berridge, President and CEO of Complex Community. We're excited to be sharing financial goals. So we're going to start right off the top. Why does anybody have a financial goal? Well, financial planning helps individuals create a plan that leads to achieving their short-term and long-term goals. Short-term, it can be anywhere from 1 to 3 years. Short-term could be, depending on your age, it might be graduating or passing that class that you're in, or maybe getting your associate's degree, or depending on where you are in your college education, it could be receiving your degree. But a short-term goal is anywhere 1 to 3 years. We usually plan these goals by saving. So different ways of savings, some things you could save for, rainy day fund if you have a broken arm or a flat tire, or your car's not working. These days anymore, you have to have a fund for a cell phone. They're so expensive. Vacation, down payments on houses, cars. There's a whole bunch of different short-term goals that you can apply for. Long-term goals. These are anything that are longer than 3 years. So usually 7 years or more. And these goals can be long-term. So houses, maybe a collectible car, your college, and depending on where you are, 401k, retirement, those are all long-term goals that you need to be planning for. And in retirement, when's the best time to start planning for that? Now, wherever you're at, because it's a long-term investment. You're going to be going for the long term. And there's psychology behind goal setting. The more intentional thought you put into setting a goal, the more likely you are to achieve it. If you just randomly say, oh, one of these days I'm going to go to school, or I'm going to get my doctor's degree. If you don't have a goal, a time frame set, you're probably not going to meet it. But if in your mind you have the thought process to say, in 4 years, I'm going to graduate with my degree, you have a lot more probability of getting that. So let's talk about SMART goals. We've talked about long-term, short-term goals, but let's go into actually creating a SMART goal. We're going to set a goal to purchase a new car, maybe after graduating college. In SMART, S-M-A-R-T, the S stands for specific. The who, what, when, where details of the goal. So for example, let's say in a year I want to purchase a used Honda Civic for around $16,000 and finance it for 3 years. You need to know the who, what, when, where details. So who can you get a loan from? What are the other fees associated with it? When would you need to start your process of buying a car? So all the details around buying a car, you've got to be specific. You got to get down to the details. The M, the measurable. How much and how can I make it happen? So for example, let's say you want to put a 20% down payment of $3,200. So you're going to be financing the remainder of $12,800. But how much do you need to make? How far do you need to go out to save that 20% down payment? How far do you need to go out to save that money to create that $3,200? How can you make it happen? What are other ways you can make it happen? You need to get another job. Do you need to maybe take a second job, or maybe do some weekend things? But you gotta have measurements. You gotta have it measurable, attainable. Is this goal realistic? And do I have the resources to make it happen? Is getting a 20% down payment on a car realistic for you? Maybe it's not. Well, at that point, you got to go back to the beginning and start all over and say, all right, so what's some more specifics I need to think about? If it is attainable, or if it is realistic, then you go through and do you have the resources? So for example, in the buying the car, you're saving 20% down, $3,200. You'll need to save $267 a month, or $134 of a bi-monthly paycheck. So do you have the resources to be able to do that? Does your job or the bills you have set up allow that? Is it attainable? So here's some food for thought. Are you really prepared to spend $400 a month for a car payment? So if you are, why don't you kind of try it on for size? In your planning, why don't you go ahead and save $400 a month to make sure that your budget can handle it? That way you get down the road, 6-8 months, and you realize, I can afford $400 a month, or I can't afford $400 a month. And that lets you know if it is truly attainable. It might make sense in your head, but there's always a time to drive the fancy car. There's always another time to buy the bigger house. So make sure it fits so you don't get yourself into a financial bind. And you got to be realistic. Is it important to buy a car that you cannot afford? Be honest with yourself. If you don't have to finance, don't finance anything else that would put you into a budget stronghold. So back to the SMART R stands for relevant. Why is this important to me? Why is it important to get a car? Why is it important to buy the house? This will be situational. But in our example, let's say you currently drive a car with 92,000 miles on it. It's 9 years old. The car more than likely only has a few years left, and you need to prepare for anything that could happen. Engines and transmissions, those all could happen in that situation. So is it important to you that you need to get a car to get you around? More than likely. So you just need to know why it's important. What's the relevance of buying this car? And the T stands for time bound, the time frame, deadlines. So to be on track in our example, in 3 months, you would need to have saved $800. 6 months, you'd need to have saved $1,600. 9 months, you need $2,400. So you need to keep yourself on track. You need to meet these deadlines with your goal. If you're not meeting your deadlines, you need to stop and reevaluate where you are. And if you need to make a change to your deadline or to your goal to make those deadlines happen. Where do you begin? So you got to evaluate the big picture. What's your current income? What do you expect your income to be? And what are your current debts? Those are all part of the big picture. You've got to look at all of these different items. And you got to be able to understand the difference between wants versus needs. If you want it, maybe a cell phone's a want, maybe cable TV is a want, maybe that Mercedes is a want. Is it actually a need? Is it something you really need to have? The needs are your basics. Do you really need that Mercedes, or can you get by with a Honda Civic? You have to understand the difference between needs versus wants. Then you need to be able to create a budget. You need to create a spending plan. You've got to name every dollar. Every dollar has to have a name, and it has a place where it goes. If a dollar doesn't have a name, you need to find a name to put on it. So whether it's house payment, bills, savings, entertainment, whatever it is, you need to have a spending plan, a budget, and name all your dollars. And you need to practice delayed gratification and eliminate unnecessary spending. So delayed gratification, put it off a little bit. You don't always have to have it right now. And don't spend. Maybe you don't need to spend that $5 on the cup of coffee at Starbucks. Save it. Put another name on it. And you have to save with a purpose. You have to know what your purpose is for when you're saving. And looking at the big picture, you have to evaluate where you've come from with your financial decisions. Have you made some choices in the past that can impact you? That's a part of the big picture. Acting to be financially sound and managing debt. You have to control your spending, and you have to live by your budget. You have to live by the names that you put on those dollars to make sure they go where they belong. And you have to create your goals and learning to let your money work for you. That's the hardest part. Let your money work for you. After we do all this, then we can begin to see endless possibilities in our future. You need to know yourself. You need to know and understand your personal relationship with money. Are you a scrimp and save kind of person and you know where every penny goes? Are you fearful of making a mistake just so you don't budget at all? And do money burn holes in your pockets and you can't spend it fast enough? You need to know where you fit into that situation and what criteria fits you. Understand and separate needs versus wants. These two concepts are foundations of financial planning. And we've also have the power to make and break every decision, every budget. Your needs, things that are indispensable, like a place to live, clothes, food, water, those are your needs. And basically wants are everything else. And it's based on perspective. So let's talk about the Moscow method when you're evaluating your wants versus needs. You have the must-haves, should-haves, could have, and won't have. When you're looking at the chart, the top left corner is your high priority needs. The must-haves, the air, the food, the clothes, a shelter. Those are the things that you have to have. Then you have the should-haves, the could-haves, and the won't-have. So let's put an example of, let's say you need work boots for work. Is that a won't have, could have, should have? Well, more than likely, if you're going to go to your job, it's probably either a should have or must have, depending on what type of job you're doing. You know, some jobs require you to have steel toe boots. That's a must have. It's a safety issue. So it's got to fit in there, and you got to fit that into your budget. What about just that pair of, some sort of fancy boots, full quill ostrich boots? Do you really need those? Depending on the price and your budget, it might come into a won't have just because you don't have the money to make it happen. Delayed gratification is another word we need to discuss. Giving up something that you want right now to save for something bigger and better down the road. Sacrifice today so you can have more tomorrow. Delayed gratification is saying no to the big designer clothes or the steak dinners now and saving that extra money to make a good down payment on a car in 18 months. I deserve this. That's a frame of mind that you need to be in. You deserve a strong financial future. You deserve to live life without a dark cloud of financial worry over you because you've made some decisions. You deserve better financial health. I'm not entitled to a fancy car, a fancy dinner, fancy house, if I can't afford it. So you need to cut or eliminate expenses. Know where you're spending your money. Is it Starbucks? Maybe you need to go to the grocery store and buy some Folgers. Fast food. Home cooking is usually better, healthier, and a little less expensive. Gym membership versus doing it at home or maybe working out at school. Be a smart consumer. There's always discounts and coupons and loyalty programs, and comparison shop, whether it's your phone, insurance, gas, groceries, cable, car, interest rates on your vehicles. Go out and shop those. There's always better options. And as we discussed earlier, name every penny. Build a monthly budget that works for you. There are all kinds of free forms online or even apps. Break down your income and expenses and never let a penny go without a name or a purpose. Your budget is a living document. It changes all the time. And so you're going to need to revisit and change it and amend it until it works for you. Learn to save. Save with a purpose. The first thing you should do every month is PYF. What does PYF stand for? Pay yourself first. Save your money first. Make sure you've got that rainy day fund. Then live and breathe your budget. Like we said, it's a living document. Make sure it works for you. Use your budget. Name your saving account something so you won't be tempted to borrow from it. For example, a new car fund or child's college fund. Life is all about choices. By setting goals and lining out a plan to reach them, we're creating for ourselves a present where we no longer are bound by yesterday's choices and a future full of new choices and opportunities. Well, guys, thanks for listening to the financial goals. We have a few common questions that have been asked that we're going to run through real quick. I asked Lisa Wyman with the credit union. She's our Senior Vice President of HR and Credit Union Development. She's going to come answer some of these questions. So we're going to dive right in.
Sounds good.
All right. So I'm 20. Do I really need to incorporate retirement into my financial goals?
If you want to have financial freedom, absolutely. You should start as young as you can. If you get a check from grandma when you're 2, it'd be great if you put 10% of that away. It's a game changer. If you wait until you're making enough money to where you're like, oh, I've got some disposable income now, I'll start saving, you're going to wind up at 35 or 40 just really working hard to save, and then you're going to get to 65 and not be able to retire. So the younger you are, the more important it is that you're saving.
So time's on your side right now.
Totally.
Very good. So what's an appropriate amount to have in an emergency fund?
Well, there are a lot of different opinions on this. I think the most important thing is that you add up your monthly expenses and you have 4 to 6 months worth of those expenses tucked away. That's, I got really sick and I'm off work for 6 weeks. I broke my leg and my job requires that I'm able to move around and I can't. It just gives you that buffer, that safety net, that if you do lose your job, if you're working in West Texas, we're dealing with a lot of layoffs right now. It's really important that you've got that money set aside. Gives you some breathing room, gives you some time to find something else or to heal or whatever the case may be.
So there's not one magic number that fits for everybody. Each number is a little different for every person.
I think so, but if you're going less than 4 months and thinking you're going to be okay, I think you're shortchanging the process. You really need to look at least 4 and then just build out from there. If you've got a family, 6 months, 7 months, right? Because you've got more people depending on you.
Good answer. So what happens if my goals get derailed? How do I get them back on track?
Well, some people get derailed and they just give up. It's too hard. I can't do it. And what I would say is you just got to dive right back in. Learning how to budget, learning how to save, learning how to buy a car and a car that you can afford. All of those things take time and practice. Obviously, you're learning something here today. We're talking to you. We're trying to help you to learn to make the best decisions right off, but we all make financial disaster decisions. And so you just have to say, okay, well, that didn't work. Let me go back to my budget. Let me go back to my savings plan. Let me go back to, with that dealership trying to buy that car and make the best decision that I can with this new set of information that I have. So don't give up. Keep going. You're going to find a way that works. And you'll find that over the years, you're going to have to change. Like when you got married and you started having kids, you probably budgeted much differently than when you were single or when you first got married. And so knowing that there are going to be times in your life when situations are going to change and you'll find a new and better way to do it. So don't worry about getting derailed. We all do. Worry about just staying the course, right? We're in it for the long game.
And that's a good example of the budget is a living document. We talked about it in the presentation. It's a living document. It changes all the time. It never stays the same. There's always another mouth to feed, or you get a dog. There's always something different. So the budget is a living document. Well, Lisa, thank you for your time today.
You bet. It was fun.
Hopefully y'all have enjoyed the video. We're ready to be back in the classroom with you, but we'll get there one of these days. So thanks for participating today.